second I submerge underwater, it's like anything else going on leading up until the moment my head went underwater just disappears. All of a sudden, you're just almost transformed into another world while you're down there. And it's silence.
Hello, Cayman travelers. Diving is one of the best experiences here in the Cayman Islands. And today we will have a personal conversation with Joe, the owner of Divetech.
Let's dive in. Hello, Cayman travelers. Welcome back to the channel. And as Kenya said earlier, we're going to be talking today to Joe, owner and operator of Divetech here in the Cayman Islands. Joe, thank you very much for accepting our invitation and having us coming up here to your boats, beautiful boats.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to tell you my story.
First of all, let's talk about Joe the person. We're going to talk about Joe the diver and the business owners later on,
Okay.
But let's talk about Joe the person. Can you tell us more about who's Joe?
Sure. So I was born and raised in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and I have been coming to the Cayman Islands pretty much my entire life. We used to come down a couple times a year on vacation, which was when my love of the ocean started, when I got certified here in the mid-90s. And after that, I knew I wanted to grow up and be a dive instructor. So I finished university with a degree in kinesiology, and then immediately following that, I moved to the Florida Keys, where I went through my instructor training, and then moved eventually to the Cayman Islands to dive.
What year you moved here?
I moved here fully in 2012.
What you did in that time before owning Divetech?
So once I went through my dive instructor training, it had always been my goal to come and work in the Cayman Islands. When I received my certification, it just happened to be about 2 months after Hurricane Ivan had hit Grand Cayman.
Wow.
So nobody here was looking for dive instructors, which was so sad. So I just kind of blasted my resume out all over the world. And there was a company in Hawaii that hired me, and I'd never been to Hawaii. So I was like, sure, why not? So I packed up and moved to Hawaii, and I worked out there as a dive instructor, much longer than I had intended to stay. I ended up being there 7 years. And then I was like, you know what, it's time. I've always wanted to live and work in the Cayman Islands, so I headed back this way.
So let us know more about the company, what year you bought the company, and then give us more information, please.
Sure. So Divetech was started in 1994 by a woman named Nancy Easterbrook, and she kind of just started this very small dive business on her own and sort of grew it into what it is today. I started working for Divetech when I first moved here in 2012, and Nancy was the one who had hired me. And shortly, about 2+ years into working for Divetech, Nancy was looking to retire, and it just seemed like the logical next step in my progression as a dive instructor. I had worked in the diving industry, I had managed dive shops, so next was to own a dive shop, and it just all seemed to fit because I knew the company, I knew Nancy, I knew the island, I knew the industry really well, so it just seemed like the right fit.
Divetech started at Lighthouse Point. This is where it started, right?
So originally Divetech started at where Macabuca's Crack Conch is there, and then they opened up another location at Cobalt Coast. And then they opened up the next location at Lighthouse Point and then moved out of the Crack Conch. So they were just at Lighthouse Point and Cobalt Coast. And then we moved out of Cobalt Coast because that was sold to different owners. So for a while we operated out of Lighthouse Point and the Holiday Inn. And now we're back in Lighthouse Point and Cobalt Coast.
So right now your company has 2 shops, 2 different spots. One is in Lighthouse Point and Cobalt Coast.
Yes, correct. So both locations have amazing shore diving. They both have restaurants, and they both have accommodations as well at them.
What activities or services that the company offer at the moment?
Divetech offers just about every possible activity for scuba diving. So we do from the very beginner for non-certified divers. We do Discover Scuba. We do all levels of training from open water all the way through Dive Master and all the specialties in between. We do the daily boat dives for certified divers, guided dives from shore, and then we also do the technical side of diving as well, which is the deep stuff.
Kenya is crazy about diving.
Yeah.
She want to ask you about what to do she can dive. She want to ask you about it. I'm going to let her deal this.
Okay.
Yes, how you ensure safety for divers, especially for the beginners?
Oh yeah, so we have very strict ratios. So all dive operators are laid out a ratio to follow by our training agencies. And then Divetech actually almost halves that ratio. So we have our structure to customer ratio is very small. Sometimes some activities it's even one-on-one. And then for the most part, it's 2-on-1 for the non-certified people. And then once we get certified divers, we do ratios that are also low. And if we happen to go over that, we add more staff to keep it safe.
What is the minimum age for diving?
So the 8 and 9-year-olds can do what is called the PADI SEAL team, and that actually allows them to dive on full scuba to 12 feet. It's normally in a swimming pool. Divetech's quite lucky that we've been signed off by our training agency to take them into the shallows in front of our Lighthouse Point shop, so we can take them in the sea pool and just out on the reef. But again, only to 12 feet, but they are on full scuba gear. And then once they turn 10, they can do the full open water certification as well as a Discover Scuba dive for non-certified divers.
You need to be certified to start diving, right? What is the certification process like?
So the process to get your open water certification is some online theory work. So what used to be classroom, now you can do it online, which is great because you just do it at home. You can pluck away at it when you have time. And then once you're done with the online training, you contact Divetech, and it consists of 2 full days, the morning being done in the confined water or swimming pool, practicing skills. And then each afternoon we do 2 open water dives off of one of our shore dive sites. And they practice skills out there as well. And then after the 2 full days, you're certified.
Wow, that's great.
I think that I need to take one certification.
You up to it? You up for it?
Yeah, let's see. I have to try. Yes, I'm scared.
No.
No, and it's curious because I see some companies advertising night dive.
Yeah.
Come on.
I love night diving. It's so
day
cool.
Dive is already scary. Can you imagine night dive now? Can you imagine night dive now? Oh man, that's gonna be that should be a great challenge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are the main diving spots here on island, Joe?
So we're super fortunate in Grand Cayman. We have diving all the way around the whole island. The side we're on right now is the west side, just off 7 Mile Beach, which tends to be the most popular side simply because of the weather. This is the leeward side, so it's diveable almost every day of the year. But there is diving all around, lots of beautiful diving off the east side. And of course, everyone's favorite is the north wall when it's calm enough to dive up there. But if you think of Grand Cayman as basically the tippy top of a mountain, we have a nice little shelf that then comes out to what we call the mini wall, which allows a nice shallow reef. And then it kind of flattens out across some sand flats. And then you hit the deep wall, which is a reef that is the sheer drop off to about 4,000 feet. So it's all very close to shore, allowing access to a lot of it from shore. So you don't even need a boat to dive a lot of the dive sites here. But the whole way around the island is popular diving.
What would you say are your favorite 5 points on island to dive?
Okay, so my favorite dive sites would be up on the north, probably Princess Penny's Pinnacle. Over here on the west, I would say Big Tunnels or Orange Canyon are my favorite. And then some of the shallow sites that are really pretty are Bonnie's Arch. And I mean, I have to say Cobalt Coast and Lighthouse Point have beautiful shore dive sites as well. And another popular one is the wreck of the Kitty Wake. That's probably our most requested dive site by visitors.
What kind of marine life, divers can expect?
So regularly, we see things like sea turtles, eagle rays, stingrays, green moray eels for the larger critters. And then there are also all of the small, beautiful tropical fish, as well as soft corals, hard corals, and then the little tiny blennies and macro sea slugs and stuff like that. So there's a wide variety of things to see here.
Well, Joe, can you share any any interesting, memorable, or scary story that you have happened or you have experienced with you and your team while diving? I don't mean to scare people about it. It's just something that.
For me, it's probably more memorable because myself and my staff, we've all been doing this a really long time. But it's still kind of cool to see everyone's enthusiasm when you find a really cool critter or something. So what comes to my mind is we were out on the Kitty Wake one day and there was about 5 different dive companies tied up out there. And from the surface, we could see a huge manta ray swimming by underwater, which is a large ray that is not regularly seen here. We'll see them maybe once a year. They happen to pass through. And everybody that was tied up was just instantly jumped in the water with their cameras and their masks just to catch a glimpse of it because, even after diving for so long and seeing, so much, it's still just, everybody's just amazed by it, the beauty of it. So those sorts of moments, we all get excited if we have a rare spotting of like a shark or a hammerhead. It comes through on our group chat that we saw a hammerhead and everybody gets excited. So I just love people's enthusiasm still to see underwater critters even after doing this for so long.
What it feels, Joe, being underwater, so deep under the water, how it feels. I know people that say, oh, you feel peace, you feel relaxation, you feel like everything in your life is getting aligned somehow. What do you feel?
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard feeling to explain, actually. It's pretty magical, which is probably why I've been doing this for over 20 years. But the second I submerge underwater, it's like anything else going on leading up until the moment my head went underwater just disappears. It's like a sense of calming that comes over me. And all of a sudden, you're just almost transformed into another world while you're down there. And everything above the surface just ceases to exist for that hour or however long you're down there. And you're just focused on the little things down there, finding neat critters and showing people cool stuff. And it's silence, which is also quite nice.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Silence is very appreciated nowadays, right?
Yeah,
too much noise up here.
For sure.
What are some biggest challenges that you have running this business, if there is any challenges?
Yeah, so the first biggest challenge that comes to my mind would be the weather. So can be a real struggle depending on the year, with storms passing through or just wind coming from weird angles, making it very challenging to keep our dive sites open or to get on the dock. And then, of course, safety is always our main priority. So we sometimes have to cancel, which is upsetting to people, obviously, if they've put in the money and the time to come here to take a vacation to dive and then they can't. But it's just a tricky balance to make sure we keep everybody safe, but also get them diving. So I think our biggest challenge as of late would be the weather for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine because once the weather is, really bad, so there is nothing that.
It's just also something you have no control over. Yes. And we do our best to move the boat where it's calmest and safest, but it's not always possible. So it's a challenge for sure.
Yeah, and I know some of the clients going to come here, they're running away from the cold, and they find stormy weather here on island.
Yeah.
It's frustrating somehow.
Yeah.
We had that last month. We have a lot of complaining clients here on island, but that's the weather. There's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah,
right?
It is. It's tricky. Yeah.
So, Joe, we know you are involved on some social community activities, events, and can you tell us more about your community, your charity involvement?
Yeah, so 2 things come to my mind. I'm on the board of directors for CETA, which is the Cayman Islands Tourism Association, as a representative for the water sports sector. This is my 2nd year with them, and it's just been a great experience because it's the whole tourism association. So it's not just water sports, but there's people from condos, restaurants, the allied sector, attractions. And it's really nice to be a part of a team of a bunch of business owners that are constantly trying to figure out how to maintain tourism in the Cayman Islands and make tourism better. And it's something we're all very passionate about. And it's nice to work alongside people that are passionate about Cayman Islands tourism. So that's one thing. The other thing I do is host the annual Women's Dive Day at Divetech. So the 3rd Saturday of July has been dubbed Women's Dive Day by Patty, which is our training agency. So we host the day at Divetech, and all the other dive operators sort of contribute in one way or another to make it almost like the event for all of the dive companies. And all of the proceeds that we raise on that day get donated to the Cayman Breast Cancer Foundation. So in all of the years we've been doing this, I've donated over $50,000 to the Cayman Breast Cancer Foundation. Yeah.
So that's women diving, or?
So it's made to celebrate women, but we do allow men to join.
Okay,
Yeah, they can come celebrate the women in their life. The whole point is to raise money for the Cayman Breast Cancer Foundation. So we host a big event, and we get so much support from local companies on island donating raffle prizes so we can sell raffle tickets, as well as dive companies that donate tanks and staff and anything else that we need.
What time of the year you guys organize this event, this dive?
The Women's Dive Day is held in July, which on the third Saturday of the month. Yeah. So I think this year it's July 19th.
If Kenya start training now, she could join you on this July.
Yeah.
She'll be able to do it this July.
Yes.
Just
Okay.
accommodate me, Kenya, so you're gonna be there. You say that on camera, don't lie.
Okay.
Okay, so Joe, what advice would you share with young or new entrepreneurs or people willing to start a business in tourism? Not necessarily have to do it on water sports, not on diving specifically, but in general in tourism, any business in tourism.
Sure. So I love working in tourism. I love getting to share the Cayman Islands with people from the outside world because it's such a magical and beautiful spot. There are obviously a lot of challenges that are out of your control. That's one of the biggest things, I think, with the tourism industry, because it's not always what we have here to offer. There's a lot of other things happening in the world that decide if people travel and what they want to spend their money on and where they want to go. So you kind of just have to stick with it and try to find ways around these challenges when you meet them. But it's worth it. It's rewarding to get to show the beauty of this island to the rest of the world, and it's good. You have to forge ahead, push through the challenges.
Wonderful.
So how can someone book a dive with you?
So most people book now via email. They reach out to us at our email address, and then we start opening our lines of communication with them, and then eventually we'll call them to firm up their reservation and make sure that they're confirmed. We also take messages on social media. People can send messages on WhatsApp. People can call us. Basically every platform available we can take reservations on.
Thank you very much for your time, for allowing us to come up here to the Captain Cayman here and have this conversation with us and with the audience that I'm sure they know about Divetech, but they don't really, most of them probably don't know exactly who's the person running the business and the history of the person running the business and the passion for the water, for the Cayman Islands, right? So thank you again very much, Joe, for having us here with you today.
Thank you. It's been an honor, and I'm happy to share my story.
There you have it, ladies and gents. If you come into the Cayman Islands and you are a certified diver, if you're not a certified diver, contact Joe to get certified before you plan to dive here, right? But if you are planning to dive here in the Cayman Islands, contact Joe, because she is amazing, and Divetech is one of the best companies here on island. They can take you to the best experience on this specific segment of the tourism. Traveling to the Cayman Islands could be overwhelming, especially with so many good options to choose from, but you don't need to do it all by yourself. If you need help with crafting your plans, your trip to the Cayman Islands, feel free to contact Cayman Luxury Travel, or type Cayman Trips on the comment of this video, and someone from our team going to be in touch to help you out to organize the best experience here in Paradise.
Until next time, happy travels.
Happy travels.